When Stefanski refused to utter Shedeur Sanders' name, the message landed with quiet force, and for many, it stung. This wasn't just a coach being cryptic. It felt personal, even petty. Sanders has been hailed as one of the NFL's most exciting young prospects, and to see his own head coach downplay his presence on national television struck a nerve with fans who've been hoping for a spark in a sluggish season.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
The moment played out like a subtle power move, one that betrayed a lack of respect, not just for Sanders, but for what he could bring to the Browns. The emotional charge behind that silence reflects the deeper dysfunction simmering within the franchise. Sanders, poised and capable, represents the kind of energy the team desperately needs. But Stefanski's dismissive stance sends a clear signal. Leadership is choosing caution over ambition. That decision isn't just costing games, it's costing trust. The tension between what's possible and what's permitted under this coaching regime is tearing at the team's foundation. Change isn't just an option anymore, it's overdue. You didn't need to be a body language expert to catch it. Kevin Stefanski, live on television, completely dodging Shedeur Sanders' name like it was a trap. The Browns head coach was asked a basic question about his quarterback depth, and instead of giving a straight answer, he delivered a strange, calculated phrase: our second-string quarterback. No name, no praise, just a vague label and a tight-lipped delivery that made everyone watching sit up and say, "What was that?" It wasn't a slip. It was deliberate. And it turned what should have been a throwaway interview. The internet immediately picked up on it. Clips circulated within hours. Analysts were dissecting the moment frame by frame. Fans were furious. And it wasn't just because Stefanski came off awkward. It was the why behind it. Why would a head coach go out of his way to not name one of the most talked about prospects in football? Theories started flying. Was it shade? A quiet protest? A sign of internal friction between coach and quarterback? Whatever it was, it didn't look good. And when paired with everything else happening in Cleveland this season, it looked even worse. Because this isn't happening in a vacuum. The Browns are struggling. The offense is flat. The play calling has been predictable, ineffective, and conservative to a fault. Fans have been complaining for weeks about how stale the system has become. And now, Stefanski's weird refusal to even say Sanders' name comes off less like an accident, and more like a symptom of something deeper. There's growing concern that this is about more than just strategy, that Stefanski is threatened, that he sees Sanders as a challenge to his authority. And instead of mentoring him, instead of building around him, he's keeping him at arm's length. That's the kind of behavior that doesn't just impact games, it erodes trust. In the locker room, on the sidelines, and throughout the fan base. Shedeur Sanders isn't just another rookie. He's a highly visible, widely discussed, emerging talent with name recognition, pedigree, and potential. His arrival in Cleveland generated real excitement. Some believed he'd be the start of a long overdue offensive renaissance. But now, Stefanski's handling of him is raising red flags about whether that potential will ever be allowed to unfold. The optics are bad, but the implications are worse. When your team is floundering offensively and your head coach is brushing aside the name of a quarterback who might fix that, it sends a message. A message that change isn't coming. That ego is taking precedence over progress. And when a team starts showing signs of leadership paralysis, when adjustments aren't made and clear solutions are ignored, that's when fans start checking it. The Browns have seen this movie before. Year after year of missed opportunities, wasted talent, and leadership that's more concerned with protecting power than evolving with the league. Stefanski's tenure is now falling into that pattern. His refusal to adapt is becoming a feature, not a bug. And now fans and analysts alike are asking the same question. Why is Shedeur Sanders still not getting a chance? If you've been following the Browns' offensive struggles this season, you know the numbers don't lie. Scoring is inconsistent. Momentum dies quickly. Game plans feel rigid and formulaic. There's no spark, no unpredictability, no growth. And the person ultimately responsible for that? Stefanski. His offense looks stuck in neutral. And instead of shifting gears and bringing in new energy, he's doubling down on the same tired blueprint. That's not strategy, that's stubbornness. Sanders is sitting right there. Young, hungry, and ready to prove himself. He's already shown flashes of leadership. He has the poise and the mechanics. More importantly, he brings a different kind of energy, one that this franchise desperately needs. But the coaching staff refuses to unleash it. And now it's clear, Stefanski isn't just hesitant. He's actively resistant. When a coach avoids acknowledging a player in public, that creates more than just awkward press. It creates internal doubt. How can a young player feel supported or valued when the most basic form of recognition is being withheld? This isn't just about game reps, it's about respect. What makes this moment even more frustrating is that the Browns' problems aren't hard to identify. They're not suffering from a lack of talent. They're suffering from a lack of flexibility, a refusal to shake things up. And Stefanski, time and time again, has proven that he would rather stick to what's familiar than take a calculated, and the cost of that caution? It's starting to show. Fans are growing restless. Confidence is evaporating. And every game Sanders spends on the sideline feels like another missed opportunity. The Browns could be building something new. Instead, they're circling the same old drain. And at the heart of it all is a coach who seems more concerned with maintaining control than finding solutions. This incident with the name, that wasn't just a PR blunder. That was a window into how Stefanski sees his team. And what we saw wasn't promising. Leadership is about more than drawing up plays. It's about empowering your players, especially the ones who are ready to take on responsibility. By refusing to publicly back Sanders, or even say his name, Stefanski isn't just undercutting a rookie quarterback. He's undercutting the very progress this team needs to survive. And let's not pretend this kind of moment doesn't matter. In a league where chemistry, communication, and leadership are everything, this type of calculated coldness creates fractures. It sends a ripple effect through the team. And if left unchecked, it snowballs into something much harder to repair. There's a reason this clip blew up. It struck a nerve. People saw it for what it was, a coach making a statement. Not with a fiery outburst. Not with some inflammatory quote. But with calculated silence. And that silence? It spoke volumes. The Browns are at a crossroads. Continue down this path of mediocrity, or embrace the opportunity in front of them. Shedeur Sanders represents that opportunity. A chance to pivot, to experiment, to revive a stale offense, and to give fans a reason to believe in something new. But that can't happen unless the leadership gets out of its own way. If Kevin Stefanski wants to keep this locker room, this fan base, and maybe even his job, he's going to have to let go of the ego. He's going to have to face the fact that what's worked before isn't working now. And he's going to have to start showing his players and the public that he values talent more than control, starting with calling his quarterback by name. So what do you think? Is Stefanski letting ego cloud his judgment? Is Shedeur Sanders being held back for reasons that have nothing to do with football? Or is this just another case of classic Browns dysfunction? Let us know what you're thinking in the comments. Hit the like button if you're as frustrated as the rest of Cleveland. And don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns, callouts, and deep dives into the drama behind the game. Share this video with someone who's ready to see Shedeur get the shot he deserves. Because if change doesn't happen soon, the Browns are going to miss their moment. Again. The silence heard around the NFL wasn't about a game plan. It wasn't about a controversial play. It wasn't even about a loss on the field. It was about a name. Or rather, the refusal to say one. Kevin Stefanski, head coach of the Cleveland Browns, stood on live television and deliberately chose not to acknowledge Shedeur Sanders by name. A rising talent. A second-string quarterback with more media attention and momentum behind him than any other rookie in the Browns' recent memory. And all Stefanski had to say? Our second-string quarterback. That was it. No first name. No last name. No comment on his performance. Not even a tired coach cliché. Just a sterile label wrapped in awkward body language and tight delivery. And suddenly, a conversation about team depth became a public relations disaster. Fans weren't shocked because Stefanski tripped over his words. They were shocked because it felt intentional. It felt personal. And worse, it felt like a metaphor for everything that's wrong with Cleveland's current leadership. In a league that thrives on boldness, adaptability, and trust, the Browns look like they're being led by a man terrified of being outshined. Let's not gloss over the facts. Shedeur Sanders is a rookie, yes, but he's also a name with weight. Not just because of his lineage, but because of his performance, his poise, and his readiness. You don't have to be an expert analyst to see that he brings something the Browns desperately need: leadership, energy, and momentum. But instead of nurturing that, Stefanski is suppressing it. This is about more than one player. This is about a culture of resistance at the top of the organization. Stefanski's refusal to speak Sanders' name has become a symbol of something much bigger: a coach unwilling or unable to let go of control. A coach who views new talent not as a lifeline, but as a threat to his authority. And it's not just the fans who are noticing. Analysts, former players, insiders, everyone's talking about it. Because the play calling has been predictable, the offense has been dragging, and the leadership looks allergic to change. This isn't a slump. It's stagnation. And at the center of it is a coach whose playbook hasn't evolved, whose decisions have lost the trust of fans, and whose attitude toward young talent is under fire. Even Stefanski's handling of other team issues, injuries, poor execution, inconsistent quarterbacking, feels reactive instead of proactive. It's a wait-and-see philosophy that has no place in a league moving at full speed. While other franchises are taking risks, trying new schemes, and elevating new voices, Cleveland is sitting in neutral, hoping things will magically improve if they just stay the course. But here's the truth: the course isn't.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And the refusal to integrate Shedeur Sanders, combined with the now infamous Live TV snub, isn't just a missed opportunity. It's coaching malpractice. The Browns need a spark. They need leadership that understands timing, momentum, and how to use the tools available. Shedeur isn't just sitting on the bench. He's rotting on it. And the fans are watching this in real time. You can hear it in every post-game radio show, every Reddit thread, every call-in complaint. The team feels stuck. The offense feels flat. And Kevin Stefanski feels detached. Like he's watching this all unfold from a safe distance, arms crossed, waiting for someone else to fix it. But no one's coming to fix it. It's on him. And whether it's ego, fear, or just old-school rigidity, the clock is ticking. What's really frustrating is that Sanders has done everything right. He's kept his head down. He hasn't fed the drama. He hasn't lashed out. He's just continued to show up, ready to step in when called. That kind of maturity from a rookie? It's rare. And it should be rewarded. Instead, he gets brushed off like a backup with nothing to offer. And the longer this goes on, the more damage it does, not just to Sanders' development, but to the team's culture. What does it say to the rest of the locker room when the most talked-about player on the roster can't even get a name check on national TV? It says, stay in your place. It says, don't challenge the hierarchy. It says, your moment will come, but only if it doesn't interfere with mine. That's not leadership. That's insecurity. The NFL is evolving. Young quarterbacks are leading franchises to the playoffs. Coaches are adapting on the fly, reimagining their offenses around talent, not tenure. But in Cleveland, the old guard is clinging to power like it's a lifeline. And now, a team that had the chance to inject life into their season is stuck in the same cycle that's haunted them for years. The fan base sees it. The media sees it. Even rival coaches are probably wondering why the Browns are keeping their best chance for revival on the sidelines. And it all comes back to that one moment, that one interview, that refusal to say the name. Because that moment stripped away the facade. It revealed the mindset driving this season. And it's not hopeful. It's not hungry. It's not even competitive. It's defensive, fearful, outdated. The kind of mindset that chooses silence over support, that chooses control over creativity, that chooses pride over progress. And now the Browns have a choice to make. Keep going down this path, clinging to a system that isn't producing. Or start building something new, something bold, something risky, something that gives this fan base hope again. Giving Sanders a shot wouldn't just be a personnel move. It would be a statement. A break from the old ways. A signal that the Browns are ready to stop talking about potential and actually use it. Because what's the alternative? Keep running the same plays? Keep putting faith in a strategy that's clearly lost the locker room and the fans? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Browns fans know that feeling all too well. But this year was supposed to be different. And it still could be. If the leadership wakes up. If the coach swallows his pride. If the quarterback with the upside finally gets the reps he deserves. But that starts with one thing. Respecting the talent in the room. And respecting the talent starts with acknowledging it. Say his name. That's all it would have taken. One sentence. One small show of support. Instead, Stefanski made a choice that told everyone watching exactly where he stands. And now, the pressure is building. The media will keep asking questions. The fans will keep demanding answers. And every loss, every stagnant performance, every awkward press conference will circle right back to that one unspoken name. The window is closing fast. But there's still time to salvage this season. There's still time to shift the narrative. But it's going to take humility. It's going to take boldness. And it's going to take a head coach who can look in the mirror and admit that maybe, just maybe, he's been holding the team. Because whether Stefanski likes it or not, the clock isn't just ticking for the Browns. It's ticking for him. At this point, the Cleveland Browns aren't just dealing with an offensive identity crisis. They're dealing with a full-blown leadership breakdown. Because when your head coach can't muster up the basic decency to say his backup quarterback's name on live TV, people aren't going to just brush that off as a minor slip. They're going to connect the dots. And the picture they're seeing? It's not flattering. What started as a strange, tone-deaf moment from Kevin Stefanski has now become the centerpiece of a much larger conversation about dysfunction, disrespect, and delusion inside the Browns organization. It's not just about Shedeur Sanders anymore. It's about what that awkward silence revealed. A stubbornness, a fear of being challenged, a resistance to change so intense it's starting to look like sabotage. And let's be honest, fans are tired. They're tired of being gaslit into believing the system is working when the scoreboard says otherwise. They're tired of the coaching staff talking about development while sitting their most promising player. And they're definitely tired of watching their team fall flat week after week while the head coach plays mind games on national TV. Let's call it for what it is. Kevin Stefanski's refusal to say Sanders' name didn't just feel petty. It felt calculated. Like a power move. Like a public statement that said, "This is my team, and we'll do things my way." But when your way has led to bottom-tier offensive stats and a locker room on the brink, maybe it's time to reevaluate your grip on the wheel. Shedeur Sanders isn't the problem. He's the potential solution. He represents exactly what this team needs right now. Fresh energy, decisive leadership, and a completely different look on the field. He's not some unknown quantity. He's not a long shot. He's a known talent with pedigree, precision, and presence. And yet here he is. Invisible, untouched, erased from the narrative by the very person who should be building him up. That's not just a coaching decision. That's a culture problem. And that culture? It's stale. It's rigid. And it's actively pushing away the things that could save it. Let's break this down further. Stefanski's entire playbook, literally and figuratively, has gone cold. His offensive schemes are being called out week after week for being conservative and uninspired. Every game feels like a rerun. Defenses have figured it out. Opposing coaches don't even need to get creative. And the only answer Stefanski seems to have? Stick with what's safe. But safety doesn't win games in today's NFL. Innovation does. Trust in your players does. Willingness to adapt does. And right now, Stefanski is failing on every one of those fronts. Worse, he's making it personal. This isn't about system fit or game prep or long-term strategy. This is about control, about ego, about a coach who clearly doesn't want to share the spotlight or the power. And Shedeur Sanders? He's paying the price. Meanwhile, what is Sanders actually doing through all of this? He's staying silent. He's staying professional. He's doing what every young player is told to do. Put your head down, trust the process, stay ready. But how long can you keep trusting a process that keeps shutting you out? At some point, the silence becomes insulting. The lack of transparency becomes disrespectful. And the refusal to publicly acknowledge your name becomes impossible to ignore. If Stefanski truly believed in Sanders, he would have said so. If he had a real plan to develop him, he'd explain it. If he had any intention of seeing what Sanders could bring to the field, he wouldn't be dodging questions like it's a press conference for a scandal. Instead, we're watching this bizarre dance where the coach pretends the team is fine and the quarterback of the future is just some anonymous benchwarmer. It's insulting to Sanders, it's insulting to the fans, and it's completely disconnected from reality. That's why this situation has caught fire. Because fans can smell when something's off. And this whole setup reeks of insecurity and mismanagement. The Browns are in a very dangerous spot. The offense is stuck. The fan base is boiling. And now the coach is playing PR games instead of making football decisions. That's not sustainable. You want to know what's sustainable? Giving your most dynamic young talent a real shot. Opening up the offense. Restoring trust in the locker room. Showing the fans that you actually want to win, not just protect your position. But Stefanski's not doing that. He's playing defense, in every sense of the word. Defensive in the media. Defensive about criticism. Defensive about his role. And worst of all, defensive about letting someone else shine. And that shine? It's not just Shedeur's time. It's Cleveland's time. More obvious, it becomes that leadership doesn't want change. They want control. And that's how teams implode. Not from a lack of talent, but from a refusal to let go of the past. This moment, the awkward TV dodge, the name left unsaid, it may seem small to outsiders. But to Cleveland fans, it's everything. It's a summary of every missed opportunity, every wasted season, every maybe next year. Because next year never comes when the people in charge are afraid to evolve. So the question is simple. Will the Browns finally step forward into the future that's sitting right there in front of them? Or will they keep pretending everything's fine, even as the foundation cracks beneath them? Let us know in the comments. Should Shedeur Sanders already be starting? Did Stefanski's interview cross a line? And do you still believe this team can turn it around with him calling the shots? Smash that like button if you're done waiting. Subscribe for more breakdowns, drama recaps, and the real conversations that the sports world doesn't want to have, but needs to. And share this with anyone who still thinks this was just an awkward moment. Because for Cleveland, this might have been the tipping point.